This is the Ministry of Remedies record of a court case of the 13th of April regarding a Judge Silcox of Monroe County, implying that they've got some jurisdiction over our creditors, void of valid contracts and an assignment of consent. And we're sitting here now. The time is in Greece, 5:30, 1732. In England, it's 2 hours before that. And in America, it's 10:32 a.m. And we are all here to witness the fact that this hearing was attended to in order to remedy the matter. The judge was already placed on notice that should this case be initiated, her attendance will immediately confirm her criminal intent, and therefore the Ministry of Remedy will take the jurisdiction of the case into universal law, and the judge will be dealt with accordingly. Now we're just waiting for the judge or the admin to initiate the Zoom link.
We're still waiting for the host to start meeting. Would you like me to show that screen so you have it on record?
That would be great, thank you.
See if I can do this. See what I'm doing here. Can you see that?
Okay, so that's us waiting there.
Yeah, Judge Silcox personal meeting room. That way you have it on record.
That's great. The irony of the fact that you can now hold a court hearing in a Zoom room just goes to show the level of psychosis that we've all been infected with. And if the commercial court can do it, then of course anybody can do it.
Right. I mean, I'm sitting in one of my spare bedrooms. Yeah, it's an office now, but there's no jurisdiction here. There's no court.
They haven't even got a logo.
Right.
All of this has been secured. What they have got is empty credit files, legal fictions that have had the equity taken out and assigned elsewhere. What happens at that point, obviously, is when an assignment of consent is required for them to initiate or a contract, they have neither. And that's why I'll be very surprised if this judge is stupid enough to incriminate herself any further than she already has by putting her legal fiction or the legal fiction that she was crediting illegally and unlawfully onto a piece of paper to imply that she has some jurisdiction over some matter when their jurisdiction is of no matter and nobody, no things, legal fictions. So should they decide to turn around and say that obviously nobody attended the court, then obviously you've got this video proving otherwise.
Exactly.
So we're quite kind. I'm prepared to wait until 1:45.
As am I.
We need a little freedom song going on now in the background.
that is the background you have.
If anybody wants to minister some music, the Ministry of Music.
Yeah.
How about all by myself?
But we're not.
Oh, we're not. Yeah.
That's for her. We'll dedicate this song to the judge all by yourself.
This one's for you, Judge Silcox.
Yeah, and there's many more to come.
Yes.
The great part about this, like we were saying, is that the hierarchy system now is just hanging on by a few indefinite minds that are still crediting this in the face of all the truth that's now staring them down through their own fear, obviously. And this is why we've established Ministry of Remedies, so people have got a valid alternative for you to be able to come to appoint the administration of law in your community, operating the rule of law and giving it consideration over and above all other lesser jurisdictions, and making sure that those people who hold such title or are entered into contracts with those obligations of performance either do what it is that they have agreed to do or consider themselves sacked. The people now restoring their rights as secured party creditors to their own minds have put themselves into the position whereby the system are now making themselves obsolete by them denying the very standing that secured party creditors have. So if we can just get one debtor account, which is anything pertaining to Her Majesty's government or HMRC, Crown Corporation, the Vatican, the SEC, for example, if we can get just one precedent set in your country like we did here, then needs to be no more of this at all. The red paper does the talking. The assignment of consent, of my consent, is elsewhere. I haven't got the right to, therefore, of use of it. I've given it away to somebody else and they haven't granted me a license to use it. And that goes across the board, whether it's your DNA, whether it's your right to use the legal fiction, the driving license, the DVLA plates or equivalent wherever you are in the world. The UCC is Uniform Commercial Code, and it applies to any country, as you know, that was turned or implied to be a corporate state. And you will find your country there under another title being implied to be in commerce, and are using all of you as equity to stand surety to their terrorism. So by you following the steps and signing consent back to yourselves, you appoint the Ministry of Remedy then to deal with the things that you would normally go and fund these terrorists for by the administrative system, realizing that if I have to commit an act of fraud in order to initiate anything, such as use of legal fiction to contract with a lawyer or to lay a claim in a court, then anything that comes from that point of initiation, it can't be of any remedy whatsoever. It's only compounding fraud and theft and belief in non-entities and systems thereof. So by not doing that, you keep yourself unalienable of your rights. So anybody who has gone to the lengths of assigning their consent back to themselves, or putting those presumptions, they've got a right then to apply to the Ministry of Remedy to say, I've got some settlement. I have got a restoration of rights process that needs to be completed for me due to the theft of my children, the theft of my house, the theft of my rights, the coercion of committing fraud upon my soul. I want my remedy for that. And so the only reason why we've got an environment that we have at the moment is because we haven't had a venue to be able to do that. And now obviously they've set a standard here where we can hold Zoom meetings and call them courtrooms. Thank you very much.
Did you see the notice on the paper that said that it's a criminal offense to record a Zoom meeting?
Really?
Did you see that little? Yeah.
It's a criminal offense to imply that you've got any jurisdiction over any matter whatsoever.
Yeah. I laughed at that.
Oh, look, and it's stuck on a post-it. It's stuck actually on a little sticker.
Yeah.
So that it can be peeled off at any time. Well, if that doesn't denote fraud on every level, You know,
We had a
why
good
are we
laugh
going
at
to
that.
these people and saying, please help me, you know, even the police, will give them a call, let me capitalize on your latest liability. How can I
Yep.
screw you over today? Well, I can't actually catch any criminals because I work for them all. So, but now you've contracted with me, I can come and investigate whether you've got insurance in your car, for example. I'll come to your house for the burglary and end up arresting you for some piece of paper or tax liability that you didn't honour to the terrorists. So when they're talking about such as contempt of court or obstructing the course of justice, first of all, show me a call. Okay, here we go.
Something's going on.
No? What does it say there?
Make sure your device is listed as your first and last name. No Apple iPhone.
That's contract.
Yep.
So just put me on there.
Already did.
The reason that we can't use the first and last name is because they haven't got a right of use of it.
Right.
A legal
trying to get-
fiction copyrighted by the Vatican's birth certificate system. And unless we've got a right of use of it or an assignment of consent, just that alone says that you cannot enter into that a rendezvous, meeting, hearing, whatever they want to call it, without first
Joindering.
fraud upon your soul. So that's an offer, obviously, that we cannot accept under those terms
Correct.
and conditions. You could put reference and then brackets the last name or the case file number.
The official seals.
Yeah, the official seal showed up on the screen. Here, let me point you at the
Oh, have we
screen
got an
again.
official seal?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that little thing right there or not.
And it has no value whatsoever because
Right.
it's being used for fraud. So I would put, you could put in there instead the case file number and put ref case file number.
It just says we're waiting, I guess.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. It's just waiting, I guess.
Okay. So we already notified them that they were of the charges that normally people incur, corporations incur with our commercial side, which is the Schedule A absolute. Now, because these people represent our equity that is already secured as collateral, we can't go around claiming against ourselves, can we? So at this point, there's just a very simple restoration of rights, depending, so it's for our purposes now to look through the Schedule A. What is it that has occurred today? And in what way would you like to discharge any of those charges against any equitable shares that that particular legal fiction had inside its account? So Donna Silcox or Silcox-Donna, for example, will now be liened. And any asset inside that account will be used as compensation to discharge the charges that would have been applied had we been in commerce here today.
We had a question. We were wondering if you had the right Silcox, because this one says Honorable Catherine H. Silcox.
Right. I've just got C Silcox, so it's Donna her middle name. Okay.
No, middle name begins with an H.
Okay. So it's Catherine, Honourable
H.
in
Yeah.
inverted commas. Catherine Silcox, Catherine.
But she is also a lawyer, because
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, they've just appointed themselves. There can be no judge, especially a judge of their own matter. And because they're a corporation holding hearings or seances, if you like, to revitalize the dead at their hearings so that they can then go and launder the equity that the people have given away when they use that legal fiction. Have you put the reference case file number in there as the name?
There's nothing to type, nothing. It's just a black screen that says Judge Silcox Personal Meeting Room, and please make sure your device is listed as your first and last name.
So can you list your device as the reference number?
There's nowhere to change any information. There's a
Okay.
button for test, speaker, and microphones. That's it. It's still that same last screen.
Something's
you saw.
happening. It's on.
We
It's
still have
on.
What is on?
I've just got the meeting on my phone here. I'll show it to you.
Okay,
I still
so
have nothing on this end. Yeah, I don't even have
I
that.
can't see that. Can you speak at the same time?
So she's roaming around in the background. I haven't started anything yet. Would you want to talk to her then? Oh,
Yeah, if you can
what do
connect
we do?
it.
Should I press the
Yeah.
thing? Should I start it?
Yes.
Recording in progress. Can you turn on video, please?
Minister Emma Venn here from Universal Law Community Trust. Am I speaking with Catherine Silcox?
Okay. One second.
Catherine Silcox, or creditor to the legal fiction Silcox Catherine, do you have an assignment of consent or an authority to act in this matter? The sound's off. I can see her lips moving.
Yeah, it's just, how do I go on? Okay.
Who are you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you just say, who am I?
This is not the person that you're dealing with, correct, officer?
I am Minister Emma Venn. I have the assignment of consent and the authority to act.
It's gone.
There you go. That's it. As soon as they get the assignment of consent notice, have you got the assignment of consent? That's it. They know they haven't got what it is that they require in order for them to initiate any matter whatsoever.
Now she said that there was someone in the waiting room. She got on. I put it on. She said, "This is not the person that we were meeting with, is it?" The officer said, "No, ma'am." And by the time you could say what you said, she had gone off.
Right, but I already spoke before that point. Anyway, we'll play that back. So, do you want to go into the meeting room?
I don't have an option to enter.
Yeah, there's no option to enter. It's
Right.
just, but it's
Okay.
still on though. It's still on.
It's still on. So obviously at this point, if they're obstructing the course of justice for us to be able to remedy any matter by refusing to allow us into the meeting, then,
Hold on, something's happening on this end.
okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah,
Right,
there you go.
at this point, you can just say to them that you have assigned your rights to me and you grant me the authority to
And
act.
the person who is identifying as me, turn on your audio. Who are you?
I am the creditor, one now retired, of the legal fiction that you have been trying to trespass upon.
So you are Karen Blair?
I am not, no, I just told you, I was once the creditor of that account, now retired. And I have assigned all of my rights unto Minister Emoven of Universal Law Community Trust to deal with this matter.
Okay, well then we're gonna put you back into the waiting room since you're not a party to the action.
We are a party to this action. So there they had the assignment there. They had notification that the rights have been assigned, rendering them without any. So this is really good for people to get their heads around. How does a court or a judge get the jurisdiction to be able to even call you to give you any kind of remedy? And that comes through the use of the name. And obviously that was why she wanted to know, was somebody going to claim that name? Nobody can claim that name, but the fact that they wanted somebody to do so obviously incriminates themselves. It exemplifies the fact that they are prepared to commit fraud and coerce other people into committing fraud by refusing to initiate any kind of anything that resembles lawful or legal remedy, and has prevented the case from going ahead. So on behalf of the Ministry of Remedy, and based on the evidence that we've already had and the testimony there from Catherine Silcox stating that if I was not to say I was that name, even though they have no way of proving whether I am that name or not, because they were looking and speaking to a blank screen anyway, without any request for formal ID, normally the passport or driving license. So therefore, what is to be considered valid ID these days? That's the question that we would like that particular circumstance to determine. In my comprehension and understanding of universal law, to attempt to coerce anybody into claiming something that isn't theirs and enter into a contract with a fictional entity is to commit fraud, false claim, twocking in the lease, taking without consent, and attempted theft. That legal fiction been peacefully surrendered back to the creator of that legal fiction, and all of the equity was assigned. So based on that, my judgment in this matter is that a warrant should be issued against Judge Catherine Silcox for her part in operating and supporting a terrorist system, fraud, theft, attempted theft, statutory rape, and fraud. I've already said fraud. Who of the Emavens second that?
I do. Emoven 6.
I do.
I second
Emoven
that.
8.
Emoven 11 seconds that.
Emoven 2 seconds that.
Emoven 9 seconds that.
Emoven 5 seconds that.
Aye.
Emoven 12 seconds that.
And that completes the Ministry of Remedies hearing today in regards to the charges brought against Judge Catherine Silcox, and a warrant is hereby issued for her arrest to be sentenced at a later date.
Should we go ahead?
So we're just going to resume recording because somebody's come up with a good question. What if we were to type in and misspell the name and so that we could be let into into the meeting. The point there is that at the point that you use any name to say any of their names, any of their spellings, you're actually denoting contract. You're saying, actually, I'm here and it doesn't matter what name it is then, as long as I've got anybody who accepts the liability. So let's say a document comes through the post, it's in the wrong name, you pick it up and you say, oh, they haven't got my name right, and you call up to correct them so that they can then send the document with the correct spelling of the legal fiction on it. By that point, you've already committed the fraud. You've already committed the act that they require. So the point, if you don't commit that act, that point there where they want you to use the name in order for you to initiate the case, just that point is the point where the fraud starts to commence. If you don't do that, then the action has to be taken completely unlawfully, and they have no implication or implied consent, assignment of consent, granted or implied, otherwise spelt in this name or that name, because all they're really looking for, they don't really care what your name's spelt like. They just want somebody to accept to be the liability in due course of this process. So like we said, it didn't matter there that there was no identification, no, can you show us your driving license or your passport or something that would normally be recognized by them. So, you know, how can you, anybody can pop up, which is what we just did. So it doesn't matter if we all entered now into that waiting room and put in there, and you've got the same voice waiting at the end of the Zoom link. It just goes to show that no credibility it can be created to have any standing with based on those conditions. So we've got a lovely one coming up for the insolvency, the official receivers trying to lay a claim and using Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams are going to hold a hearing. Oh, really, are they? Wow. So if that doesn't tell you that Bill Gates is now your boss, and you know, and he has got the jurisdiction through his Microsoft Teams. People have then argued the toss and said, well, you know, it's the software that they're using. They really, are you okay with doing virtual reality court cases on Zoom? I know we're not. You know, we've done this to exemplify just how ridiculous it all is, and it's only able to be like this because nobody bothered until now to do anything about it. It's to the degree that you have to have the equal and exact opposite structure in place for people to be able to adopt and for it to be able to offer a remedy. So we're still sitting here waiting just so that we can bear witness on behalf of our creditors that if they did come along and say that obviously nobody attended, here we all are.
We're still waiting.
And it will be publicly noted. The time is 18.
Oh,
8.
here, hold on. The meeting has been, they just ended the hose, or the meeting was
Okay,
ended
so
by
they
the hose
ended the
at
meeting,
11:08.
and that's abandoned ship. Discharge
they
all
abandoned.
cargoes in their jurisdiction, and
Yep.
it is a warrant now issued for the arrest of that judge or that party pertaining and interpreting a judge, a public official. So we'll get that sorted out and issued. Now, the thing with the Ministry of Remedy is because we have got all of our equity back to stand and to indemnify us in the decisions that we make, and that we have got the, you know, we're doing this in honor of universal law. We haven't got a problem about putting our faces to Minister Emoven and to say that, yes, that I took the liability for this. I am executing the order to arrest these people, and I hold the liabilities. If what I've said isn't true, then obviously they've got grounds to counterclaim against me because I am a body who will indemnify these writs. And if I'm wrong, okay, if the evidence that we've just experienced there isn't enough for people to determine for themselves who it is who's breaking the law and who is upholding it, then there's no hope for you as a community if you can't differentiate between those two things. So hopefully this is to install confidence in people in their communities to uphold universal law. We've just lost the signal there.